Hello everyone, Namaste. So today I wanted to make this video to discuss a very interesting topic in astrology. Okay, basically it's about how to maintain sanity in the world of astrology. Okay, as an astrologer mainly. So this video is more for the astrologers and partly also for the clients, but predominantly focused on astrologers and to assist them and help them. Okay. So the motivation for this video, all right, that was I was recently talking to a friend of mine who is an healer, and I've known her for quite some time, and she was a practicing astrologer. Okay, she also had the habit of going from one astrologer to another, one teacher to another, and so on. And she practiced many systems like numerology, tantra, and such things. But over a period of time, astrology really messed her up big time. Okay, so much to an extent that she cannot handle whatever is seen in the chart. It became very problematic. Okay, so many of us as astrologers, we would go through that stuff. All right, we would go through that process where we learn and we figure out things and we really get scared of what is there in the chart. Okay, so many of us cannot handle those negative experiences, and that's when really it messes up with our mind or the head most often. Okay, so obviously this friend of mine, she had a problem with her club suit, as we say in the cards, or with her Mercury as a planet. So I had to sit with her, go through the process of what really happened, why this happened, and try to explain to her that it's not astrology that is the problem, it is the way we are perceiving and processing or cognizing that information that is the problem. Okay, so there was a tendency to be very one-sided in our approach to looking at things and astrology. It was a very interesting discussion, so I thought, okay, it will benefit many of us as well, including myself, when I go through this process of understanding as well as explaining to you. So what would be the case when we deal with difficulties in the chart, when we read difficult patterns in the chart? This can be our own chart, it can be the chart of other people, could be the chart of clients. Okay, so that is the main intention of this video. Okay, so the topic of this discussion is how to maintain sanity in the world of astrology. And this, again, I've got this question from many people. In fact, even when I go out, meeting new friends or people from different spheres of life, I get this question, especially because I'm a scientist as well as an astrologer. So the main thing is, how do you balance both? It's two different worlds. It's 180-degree polar opposites of each other. So I get asked this quite a lot. Okay, so that's the funny bit of these things, right? So yeah, that's the topic, and we'll approach it from many different points of view today. All right, we'll see what are the things to consider and what are the limitations, what are the advantages you have, and so on. Okay, so that introduction. My name is Dr. Ganesh Jayakumar, and you're watching Learn Astrology YouTube channel. Okay, so you might notice that I label this video as the problem with the truth. Okay, the reason is that the truth hurts. Okay, as much as everyone loves to get an astrology reading, whatever it might be, even going to a therapy session with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, it's going to hurt because that's going to reveal some things about you which you are not aware of, or if you have been aware of, you still are in self denial. Okay, so it's a very difficult process. All right, and nobody wants to hear the truth. All right, so it's we always want to run away from it, and that's when it messes up with our work of astrology. Because if you see, as an astrologer, okay, when you're learning also, what we go through is in the initial few years, everyone's interested to know, okay, oh, when will I get this? When will I get married? When will I meet someone? Okay, when will I get a job? When will I buy a car? When will I buy a house? All these things are, the small games, the little games we play in the initial part of life when we learn these things. Okay, but honestly, as and when you progress into higher, studies with your astrology, you'll see that it really becomes almost like a repetitive patterns. Okay, and you'll see whatever you get, you can't hold on to it. You'll still lose it for the same reasons whatsoever, in different ways. Okay, so it's not easy, as an astrologer, because you would have seen that, I'm going to get this, but at the same time, you'll also know when you lose it. Okay, that's when it becomes so difficult. And many of us, if you are a very good astrologer, you would know the in and out of events as it comes in your life. Okay, you'll be even scared to approach your chart. Okay, so this happened to me in my own life at one point when I'd predicted events, the happy events, let's say, like few years in advance. Okay, I was just very good at whatever I was doing that time. I went into the details, I used several systems, and I predicted some nice events. At the same time, I knew a nasty event was going to manifest in 2 to 3 years from there. Okay, so this nasty event, I had sort of prepped myself up that it's coming. Okay, it's on the way. But I did not get the timing right for the bad event. Okay, I lost it by a few months. I was off with my timing. It surprised me, whatever, but when that nasty event manifested, okay, I really lost it at that point. I stopped, looking into charts. I did not do astrology for 6, 7 months that time, and I could not, process whatever was happening in my life. Okay, so that was a very difficult episode, and it was a very revealing episode to me. That meant to me that I'm still not operating in equanimity. Like, I'm not looking at it from a state of equilibrium, okay, where I should not get too, wrapped up with whatever is happening. Okay. Problem was I was in that state getting too wrapped up. Okay. Every one of us will go through that. All right. We, as human beings, we have our own, baggages to deal with, our own trauma, our own weaknesses. Every one of us have that, right? We have our own Saturn, Rahu, Ketu placements in the chart. We have our eighth house in the chart, our eighth lord in the chart. He's going to show all our weaknesses that is coming up. So when this event happened, it just taught me a very big, valuable lesson that, does not really matter who you are, because if you know the event or you don't know the event, it's still going to happen. And what will you do about it? Okay. Sometimes you will not be able to predict the event no matter how much you struggle with your chart. Okay, that means you are at that stage in life when you're not meant to know the answer to that question. Okay, it has happened to me many times, like when I was looking into the Varshafala, for example. Varshafala is a very nice system. It's a solar return system, it's a Western astrology system. It gives you very good results. Okay, if you use it as a standalone technique, also very useful, very good concrete results. I really love that system a lot. but it does not give you all the answers. You need to combine it with some other systems to get those answers. So what happened was, 1 year I was really struggling with my own chart. Again, I give you my own personal example where I figured out, that this event had manifested already, but I could not find the answer to it. How did this really happen? Okay. So when I was looking into the Varshafala in the start of the year, at the start of my birthday, that event, when it never showed up to me, that never clicked to me. I never could process it. I could not read my own chart that time in the way that I wanted to know that event. Okay. Then boom, that event happened. And after the year passed, after the solar return passed, I sat down there, for a couple excuse me, for a couple of hours, just trying to figure out, how did this really manifest? How did I miss this event? Okay. And same thing, sometimes you might want to really get an answer to a question, and you struggle a lot, and still you don't find the answer because that is not the time for you to know that answer. Okay. As simple as that. And you really have to accept it. Okay. That's the truth. All right. So in fact, if you go to traditional astrologers in India, few things they will do. One is they will ask you to come at a particular time on a particular date for the appointment. Okay, because that is the time they feel you would benefit from the reading. And the second thing, if you go to a tarot reader on the western side, okay, they would do is they would ask permission from the tarot whether you are apt or suited to receive this information now. Okay, these are esoteric sciences, these are occult sciences. Even if you receive that information from the best tarot reader, okay, they might do a great reading for multiple people on earth. Several hundred clients would have benefited for that. Okay, but when you go there, you might not get the answer. And you will be really, disappointed that you didn't get the answer. But why is it like that? It's not because the reader did something wrong. It is just that it's not for you to know the answer at that time. Okay. You see, in as an astrology student, as an astrologer, a tarot reader, whoever you are, you're reading time and space. Okay. Everything in life manifests at the right time and right space. If you do not process that truth, okay, if you do not understand that truth, then it is going to mess you up big time. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, so if it is at the right time and the right space, no matter what happens, okay, no matter you do the act or not, it will manifest. That event, if it has to happen, it will happen. There are n number of examples for that. Okay, so many examples I can share from the scriptures itself. Okay, so at some point in the future, I will be discussing all these things when I make, dedicated videos for that. But the point is, it's a very difficult science. All right, it is not a science for the faint-hearted. Okay, because really think about it. Why do I tell that? Because you see, there are events which are very difficult for anyone to process. Okay, let's take a simple truth, which is death. Okay. Do you know what was the first thing an astrologer would look at when you went to a classical astrologer in India? All right. The very first thing you should do, in fact, even you should do, I should do, anyone should do, is figure out the longevity of the client. Okay. If you don't know the longevity of the client, then what is the use of it? Really, I will say, okay, you're going to become a millionaire in 20 years' time. But if I could be completely wrong, because if I don't know that this person has a chance that maybe some bad illness or a bad ailment takes them away in the next 15 years, then what is the use of my prediction in the next 20 years? Okay, you have to be logical. It is a logical science. Okay, so the very first thing an astrologer should do is figure out the longevity. Okay, so now if I tell someone that's coming to me that you will die on this year at so and so time in this manner, you will hate me for that. Okay, you will think I am the most cruelest and rudest person on earth. All right. So it's not for me to, do that event. It is already set in motion. Okay. I'm not manifesting that event for you. Just because I told that, it does not mean it will manifest. Okay. I'm just, communicating that. I'm a medium communicating what is already the truth. Okay. Whether I predict that event or not, the truth is that everything that is born will die. Okay. I have to give this, quotation from the Bhagavad Gita. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 27. All right. Sri Krishna states here, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur, dhruvam janma mrityaschaha. Okay. The Bhagavad Gita, if you don't know, as a Western audience, it is the poem of God, we say. Okay. And everything you want to find answers in the Hindu philosophy, you'll find it in the Bhagavad Gita. All right. So it is a very important philosophical and sacred text for Hindus. It is not like the Bible. We have so many complex books like that in Vedic scriptures. But the Bhagavad Gita has a concise edition of all the Vedas, the Upanishads, and everything. So Sri Krishna recites this and gives this preaching to Arjuna. All right, I will get to the Bhagavad Gita in the next couple of videos. I will have to do one of the important things. But point I'm trying to tell from that verse from the Bhagavad Gita is that Sri Krishna states, whatever is born will die, and whatever that dies will be born again. This is the the theme of life. This is the nature of Prakriti. Okay, so whether an astrologer predicts that or not, whether a scientist is going to tell you that or not, that is the fact of life. Okay, whether a doctor is going to tell you that or not, because the moment you're born, the body is directly walking to the grave. It is already, the timer is set in motion. Okay, so the astrologer, when he's predicting your longevity, is only going to tell you that the timer is set in motion and how much time you have left. Okay, that does not mean you have to attack the astrologer for that, because he gave you the longevity. If I got my longevity, I know, of course, now I know my longevity because I know my chart. But if someone told me literally, okay, that you're going to die this, and this day, I would be grateful for that, literally, because I know that I have so much time only left, and I will act according to that. I will be very quick to doing things. I will get things done that I want to do. Okay. Do you know one of the important fundamental rules that we have, even in like project management, if you take, right? Many of you who are listening to the video, you're probably managers in your own field of work, right? What is the rule of project management? Why do you need management in the first place? Because there is a deadline that you have to meet, right? If there is infinite amount of time at our disposal, then nobody cares about your project management, right? There is a deadline that you have to meet, and you have to do it in a set period of time. You have to do it efficiently. You have to plan, you have to execute, you have to have the resources. And that deadline is pushing you to act. Okay, if there is no deadline, nobody would act. So that's the point here. Same thing with life, right? We have a longevity, and that is going to push you to act. And who sets the longevity? Krura grahas in astrology. Saturn is the karka for longevity. All right. And if you figure out that, the first thing you have to figure out is that what are the ailments, what are the longevity? That's the first house in astrology. Okay. If you don't know that, then there is no point in predicting. All right. So now, as an astrologer, I figure out that, okay, or someone told me that. So there are two ways you can approach that. Okay, one is really you'll be, completely devastated figuring out that, I will die this date. The other way is you see the advantage of that, figure out that, okay, this is coming. I know this is coming. Let me see what I can do. Make the best use of my time. Okay. I always gave this example of, a comet headed towards Earth. Like 15 years ago when I was practicing, even that time, I always gave that example, and now they made this movie, Don't Look Up, for the action for climate change. So we know that is a disaster. Climate change is coming. We have the situation with pollution. Okay, take that example of a comet that is headed towards Earth. Okay, what can you do about that? Me and you, we can't do jack shit about that. Literally, that is the truth. Because we have no power, no potential to do that. Unless you are a nuclear scientist, if you could nuke that comet and send it off its course, it's possible. You are really valuable resource at that time. If not, you have to hope for a miracle or a spectacle, and the cosmos would just do something amazing and just knock off the comet of its course. That's the two things you can do. There are problems you can fix, there are problems you can't fix. Okay, so this is one of those problems you can't fix, and only 6 months is left before it's going to hit the Earth. It's a planet killer, which means you're all going to die, including me. So what can you do? Make the best use of your time, right? That's what is the reality. That is the truth. All right. The truth is again painful, but people want to live their life as if they're immortal, as if that this is not happening. Just with so much of denial that is going on all over the planet, right? For everything that they do. So if that denial is not starting on the outside, that denial is starting inside within us first. Okay, you know if you think of what's really happening with your own charts, with our own lives, we are denying many things that is really happening. Okay, like I said, a person that listens to whatever is being told. Of course, I'm not saying whatever the astrologer tells might be true, whatever the therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist is telling you is the truth. No, you have to have your own viveka. Okay, meaning that you have to really see if that is the truth or not, which means you have to have that kind of sanity and that kind of intellectual capacity to discern the right information from the wrong information. Okay, so what is to be understood from all of that is, if you have a situation where an astrology reading, like you do your own reading of your chart and you try to understand that these patterns are seen and this is true, this I can see within myself. I'm acting this way that is leading to this result. Okay, it might be a good result, it can be bad result. It does not really matter. But there is a result because of the way you act. That is the karma you do is leading to a certain consequence. If you see that and you still are denying that, that means you are not, receptive to that information, whatever it is, right? So you can't live in denial anymore with going to therapy because it's as good as useless for you, right? Any form of counseling, any form of astrology reading, if you go to the right kind of an astrologer or a psychologist or psychiatrist, they are going to listen to you. They are going to figure out what is the problems that is there and help you heal you in some way. Otherwise, there is no point in doing that. Okay, so you really have to be ready to receive that information as it comes. Okay, and there is always still there is a reason we have 2 ears and one mouth. Okay, we have to listen more and speak less. And in this case with astrology reading, you're literally meant to listen more. Okay, so again, when I was talking to this friend of mine, basically the way she had interpreted everything was a complete mess. I always like to see how people with an afflicted Mercury, they process information, how they do things. When I say afflicted, of course, you have a Mercury Rahu conjunction, Mercury Saturn conjunction, Mercury Ketu conjunction, and Mercury is not strong. Mercury is combust. These are the combinations, the simple ones I'm giving you. Of course, Mercury in debilitation is the worst of all, right? So you have this kind of combinations, and I see how they just mess up even the simplest of the information that is presented to them. Okay. First thing I always tell them is you listen to these things at least a few times before you conclude or you ask questions, because they wouldn't, and you have certain other combinations in the chart. In such cases, it will just make your life hell because they are not ready to listen. Okay, they will just argue for the sake of arguing. They will just give you nasty feedback or answers for the just for the sake of it. Okay, But this friend of mine, she had a very nice Mercury, so I could sit with her, debate and try to explain what is the reason why this is the case and so on. But it's very interesting how they mess up even the simplest of the things that is presented in front of them. How they just complicate things, how they just, make a complete opposite understanding of what is presented to them. Misunderstandings are very common. Miscommunication is very common with Mercury. Okay. So you just have to really be patient, to learn to understand what is being presented. Okay. No counselor out there, no therapist out there, no psychiatrist out there is wishing the worst for you. Of course, there could be, some disguised people that really want to make your life hell, those are possible. But if someone is trying to wish you the good, then you really have to, listen to them first. Okay, listening to that advice is important. Again, there could be, let's say, something wrong with whatever they've interpreted, right? You can, at that stage, give them feedback. Okay. But when you go to a counseling session or an astrology reading, you have to go with an open mind. You are there to hear what God wants to communicate to you. Okay. Not what the astrologer is communicating it to you. Okay. Because there are two things here. One is the astrologer, and then you have the client. Okay. Two people, again, right? When you have two people interacting in some way, what would happen is, if the astrologer is completely messed up in his life, right? If he's having a lot of ego issues, wants to push his agenda into the equation of whatever he does, okay? If it's all about himself or herself, whatever she's doing, they will project everything that they are going through in their life onto the client. Okay, they will see their problems in their life onto the client. Most often, this happens with self centered astrologers, people who want to seek attention. They do things for money, they do things for fame. Okay, that's one of the important things to keep in mind. How to distinguish, if you're waiting to distinguish, if you want to figure out who is the right kind of astrologer or not, this is the simple clues for that. Okay. On the other hand, you have the client. The client is, of course, if a client is approaching an astrologer, a counselor, a therapist for something, they are sick. Okay, that means they are not in the best state possible. Okay, but you have to keep in mind the client has a complex themselves, which is they have a victim complex. Okay, there could be several reasons for that, right? Unfortunately, the circumstance in their life has made them a victim. Okay, unfortunately, something nasty has happened to them. Okay, and they are not able to cognize. All right, and they're in denial. There could also be a complex where they don't want to admit the mistakes that is there. So all they want to hear from many people, and whomever they approach as a therapist, astrologer, from one to another, they go like a bee from one flower to the other. Same like that, they go from one astrologer to another, one therapist to another. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is so many permutations and combinations of trying one person after another is not going to give you the truth. That person will read the chart in his own way or her way, and you'll get whatever answer you still need to get. Does not matter. The karma will not burn because you're just going from one astrologer to another. The karma will burn by doing the right things, pushing the right kind of buttons in your life so that the outcome can be different. Okay. Point here is that the client, because of their complexes that they are dealing with, especially the most important one being the victim complex or the denial complex or the catastrophizing complex, or sometimes their own sensitivities, just will infiltrate and get in the way of the astrologer doing the right kind of work. Okay, so there are two things that is happening. All right, one thing you have to keep in mind is, as much as possible, you have to decouple both of it. Okay, try to not intermix them, which means you have two ways of approaching this. Okay, one is you can do face to face readings, you can do face to face discussions with the client either on a call or in person. In person sometimes is better because you will be able to, get a real grasp of the situation. But that can act against you also sometimes. Okay, because we all human beings, consciously or subconsciously, we have a bias. We will be biased. Okay, you don't need to be biased. All right, which means consciously you're trying not your best not to be biased. Okay, you did all you can. Let's say I'm not going to be biased now. You sit with that mindset. But there is memory within your body that will make you tell things that is coming out of a different interpretation, not from the chart or not from seeing the client. Okay, just because you saw someone like that, you might decide to tell nice things because you have a certain inclination towards that person. Or you see some other client and you have had some bad experiences from that kind of person or that country or that work or that race or whatever that matter can be, right? You will try to tell things which can be nasty to them. Okay, but again, keep in mind this is a profession where you have to really maintain the truth. I'm going to explain why this is important as I go into the next part. Okay, so there is an unconscious bias within us. All of us, we have that. Okay, whether we like it or not, it will play its own memory, will play it out in its own ways. So as much as possible, you try to decouple that is good for you. Okay, that's the way I at least approach. So normally I don't take on readings by when I know the client, or when I have everything about them, all information about them. Sometimes I collect some information which I need for like rectification, or when I need for a tarot reading, for example. They don't know their birth time and they need a quick, a reading for prashna, let's say, and I really need to tune into them. I take a photograph of them. Okay, because that's a reading that I can really see the benefit of knowing the person. But most of the times, astrology for me, at least for me, the way I approach it is from the chart. Okay, it is a bunch of things that I see. It's as like planets. Okay, planets, stars, everything is that, and that's what I see in front of me, and I let the chart talk to me. Okay, that's what is happening there. Yes, you might think, oh, it's not like that. It's human beings. We have emotions. We have feelings. You can't tell things as it is that is coming to me. That is the same question I have to go back to. Remember, I told you when I was reading my own chart, I was able to see good and bad things. When I read the chart of my family members, I can see good and bad things. Okay? A yogi is a person that is able to see the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of life as it is, as it comes. Okay? You are not being selective. You're not cherry picking what you like in life. Okay, so what I mean by that is that we are all normally a rogi, which is the opposite of a yogi. Okay, a rogi is a diseased person. We have all our own diseases in the body. Okay, the physical disease, mental disease, psychological problems with emotional trauma, all right, spiritual disease, chemical disease, all kinds of diseases are there within us. So we are all, diseased. When I say a rogi, that means you're not in the state of equilibrium. Okay, for me, it does not matter if you are physically healthy. Okay, there are hundreds of plethora of illnesses that are going on within the body, which I can not see when I look at you physically. Okay, but on the inner side, you might be completely messed up. All right, so we all have our illnesses and diseases that we are dealing with. Okay, so when you want to be a yogi, and every one of us, we have to be a yogi in whatever you do. I don't care whether you do astrology, or if you are a software developer, or if you are running for the president next elections. I don't care, really. You have to be a yogi in that. Okay, a yogi is a person who receives everything that is happening to him in the same equilibrium manner. Okay, It does not react to that in different ways. Just because I get something exciting today, I get what I like, I get into a state of ecstatic emotions. Okay, that's not it. Because tomorrow, if I don't get what I like, let's say something nasty happened and that makes me depressed, that's the other side of the spectrum. Okay, it becomes a sinusoidal wave now. All right. And you don't want to live a life of sinusoidal waves. Yes, it is going to feel very fancy. Oh, there is so much of emotions, that is making me go up and down, up and down, up and down like the wave. Yes, but unless and until you are in that state where really you're able to, say that I will ride the wave in this sinusoidal manner and still get out of it unscathed, then good, great. You can be in that state. You can be a diseased person and live your life. But most often we can't. Nobody handles both the phases in that way, right? Because an event that occurs in real life, whatever it might be, is a neutral event. It does not really matter, okay, whatever that event is. It's the mind that attributes that event as a good event, bad event, or a ugly event for us, okay, because of what it does to us, okay. So a person who wants to be a karma yogi, let me use the right word here. The karma yogi is the right word. A karma yogi is a person that has to do his work as an act of service, okay, without expecting any rewards in return. All right, he has to see God in his action, okay, he has to see God in his client, he has to see God in everything and anything that is happening around him. Okay, that's a karma yogi, because he's telling that everything in life for me is an aspect of God. I'm serving God through whatever I do. Okay, and he's going to be in a state of equilibrium. Okay, can you be in that state always? No. Okay, that equilibrium state is what we call as a samadhi. All right, samadhi means sama means equal. Okay, there is nothing that is fluctuating there. There is no, ticks of waves that is happening. It's just always constant. Okay, and opposite of vyadi, that is the state of samadhi. Okay, vyadi means disease. So if you want to live in that state, then it does not really matter what you do, really, what chart you read, what client is in front of you, or what kind of a person is in front of you. You have to read it from just a neutral point of view. Okay. You might see the recent videos I made about transits. I just read the transits as it is. I don't care what ascendant that is. Okay, for me, whether it is my ascendant, someone else's ascendant, or my close family's ascendant, I can't personalize things. Okay, Mercury as a planet is very neutral in astrology. You have to be neutral. All right. The problem when it comes to modern days communication is that we personalize communication. All right, we make it about us or we make it about the world, and that's why you have this state of fake communication, fake news all over the world. Okay, so you see what's happening here is that you're not reading this news and information for what it is. All right, so if you start to personalize things, it will mess you up. That's what happens when you read your own chart. And on the other hand, if you start to personalize and tell the clients what they want to only hear, that means you're very selective in your information distribution or communication, then that also is not a fair deal, because it's not doing a fair thing for you as an astrologer. Okay, why is that? I will explain that in the next few minutes. Okay, so you really have to understand that it is, at the end of the day, it's just planets. Okay, look at it from the other point of view. Okay, we call a person that is working, in the graveyards in India, we call that person a chandala, which means, is a person that really is burying or burning or cremating the bodies. Okay, for him, he's burning so many bodies all over the place. Okay, every day he probably burns like 20, 30 dead bodies. Every body for him is not going to make any kind of emotion. It will not stir any kind of emotion within him. It should not, because that is his work. Okay, if it does, then it's a problem. You go sit there in front of the dead body, and every dead body that comes, even if he sits there and he cries, then what is going to happen? He can't fulfill his duties. Okay. So same thing for a doctor or a surgeon at the hospital. So many people will be their clients. Okay. And at the end of it, they will see so many deaths in every given day. And that does not mean that the doctor is not empathetic or sympathetic, or he does not have any emotions at all. No, that's a different matter, that most of the psychopaths in the world are surgeons. But you see that still for him, he has to work from a state of non emotions. Okay, because if he has too many emotions, he can't do his job properly. You see, you cannot make that personal about the treatments, or that, let's say he's doing a surgery on an animal, or if he's doing a surgery on a human being, he cannot personalize that. If he personalizes, then it's a very bad state of affairs, because he will make mistakes. There is a lot of room for mistakes. Okay. So don't expect that the communication will be in your favor when you meet an astrologer. Really not, because you might hear things that are not in your favor, and it will disturb you quite a bit. Okay, it will disturb you as an astrologer when you also read the chart many times. Okay, because it is not in your favor. All right, let me say I'm just looking at my chart. I'll see a lot of spade cards coming up. Okay, a lot of difficult, planetary placements coming up. All right, next few years, let's go into the reality of things also. Next few years, Saturn is going to go into debilitation after he moves away from tropical Pisces. So every one of us, we will have Saturn in debilitation in some house in that year. Okay, that means we will suffer in that arena of life, whether you like it or not. It's going to happen. Okay, was it something that I was not aware of? No, I'm aware of it. It's coming. I have to be prepared. It can be the most nastiest of the events that can happen, but still I have to be prepared for it. I can't do anything about it. So shall I sugarcoat myself and tell fancy fantasy things to myself, saying, "Oh, Ganesh, beautiful things are coming up in the next 2.5, 3 years. Your life is going to be great. Your client's life is going to be great." If I tell these things, then I'm sorry, this is not reality. This is fantasy. Okay, that's where you make astrology a dogma as a client. Okay, see, in this field as an astrologer, I have a responsibility. Okay, as a client, you have a responsibility also when you both come together. If both of us are not clear of our roles, and if you're not clear of responsibility and accountability to that, then it's not for you. I'm sorry to say that, it's direct. Okay, it's not for you really, because as an astrologer, my responsibility is to use the knowledge that I have to the best of my abilities, whatever it might be, give the 100% to my client. Okay. Maybe go beyond sometimes and do whatever is necessary to make that reading happen in the right way, communicate to them in the right context. Okay. Be empathetic, be in a state where you're offering constructive criticism. At the same time, you have the client who has accountability and responsibility to take that reading, okay, and go run with it, do the things that they have heard, make those changes, do the remedies, or act in conscientious ways such that it will, change their life for the better. Okay. So that's the responsibility of the client, responsibility of the astrologer. Okay. Money is just one part of the equation. Whether you pay that astrologer whatever he's asking for, or he does not charge you, it does not really matter. Okay. That's just, a transaction that is happening. The transaction is not the main thing that you have to be paying attention to. The important information that you receive, that is something that you really have to pay attention to. Okay, this is the mindset really. If you approach again with a very neutral mindset, right, receiving information, processing that information, listening to that information, then you will benefit a lot. Otherwise, it does not really matter. Okay, no matter how many astrologers you run from one to another, okay, no matter how many times you read your own chart, If you're not listening, okay, the chart is also talking to you. If you're not listening, if you're not intuitive enough to pick that up, right, then it does not really matter. It's just useless garbage information to you. As simple as that.